Barbara Nicolato, Knick-Snacks, here to show you some techniques we can use to make backgrounds for our creations. In this video, I'll be using alcohol inks on a gel plate. I'll be applying plastic wrap to create an icy texture and using this technique alone and with stencils. I hope you enjoy it. Let me begin by introducing the materials I'll be using. I have a 5x7 gel plate on an acrylic plate. I have Lavinia White Orbs stencil. I'm going to be using clear plastic wrap, and I'm going to also have my baby wipes on hand to clean my gel plate when needed. I have a small acetate sheet to roll paint onto and titanium white heavy body acrylic paint. I'll be using a soft brayer, and the alcohol inks I've chosen are Purple Twilight, Sailboat Blue, and Pool, and I'll be using these three colors for most of my demonstrations on this video. I'll be pulling my prints with multifarious size A5 white paper. As I put drops of my alcohol ink onto my gel plate, you'll notice that my gel plate is stained yellow. This is because I've used so much media of different types, especially the alcohol inks, on this gel plate, that it has permanently stained. However, I assure you it's perfectly clean and does not leave any type of yellow residue on any project that I do. With the brayer, I'm going to spread this ink onto the gel plate, lie down the White Orbs stencil over it, and then I'm going to crinkle up some plastic wrap and pat that down over the stencil. A warning is that the alcohol inks will also stain my stencil. And even though I wash it, it will not be totally white, translucent white anymore. Again, it would still be clean and it doesn't leave any type of interference or residue on other future products, just so you know. After a minute or so, I lift off the plastic wrap and take off the stencil. To pull this print onto my white cardstock, I'm going to use heavy body titanium white acrylic paint. So I put it on my acetate sheet and then spread it around a little with the brayer. I want a thin layer on my gel plate. I don't want to get it too thick. And if it is too thick, basically you could just keep brayering it, and eventually the brayer will take some of it off. So that looks about right to me. Now the purpose of that acrylic plate is so that I can invert the gel plate and see exactly where I'll be placing the gel plate on my cardstock. I don't always use that acrylic plate to do this. After rubbing the card so that I know that I have reached all areas of the plate, I pull the print, and this is what I get. Now, I want to note that the ink, the alcohol ink, was not allowed to dry. I'm going to repeat this process next and actually allow the ink to dry, and then we'll compare effects. Using this scrap sheet of white paper over the gel plate and lifting it again is just to make sure the plate is clean. I've switched to the elliptical Lavinia gel plate, and I'm going to repeat the same process, except I'm going to let the ink dry before I lift it. So I'm using the same three colors, and then I'm going to roll the brayer over them to even them out. And then I'm going to crinkle some clear plastic wrap and put it over the gel plate. I'd like to note here that where the plastic wrap touches the ink, that ink will be lifted off the gel plate, and that's what forms the design. Now I'm just going to be patient and let it sit for about 5 minutes till I'm sure the ink has dried. Coming back to this now, I'm going to carefully remove the plastic wrap. At this point, I'm going to use the heavy body titanium white acrylic paint over the gel plate, and then I'm going to pull the print with the multifarious cardstock. Another method to pat down that paper instead of using your hands would be to use the brayer. And this is a paper that I've tried pulling a print from before, and I didn't want to waste it, so I used the other side. Back to using the 5x7 gel plate, I'm going to introduce the same colors of alcohol inks that I have been using. And then I'm going to even them out with the brayer. I'm now going to use the Lavinia Laurel stencil and place that on top. Then, using a baby wipe on the exposed areas, I'm going to dab it to remove the ink from the exposed areas. Once I've done that, I'm going to use the Lavinia Elements ink pad. The color is Della Blue, and I'm going to apply that over the stencil, and with my brayer I'll smooth that over. I've mounted the Lavinia stamp 595 called Mini Orbs onto an acrylic peg by Cardio. Without using ink on the stamp, I'm just tapping that stamp down onto some of the areas of the gel plate that I've covered with the Della Blue ink. The next step will be to remove the stencil, and then using the brayer with titanium white heavy body acrylic paint to brayer it over the gel plate so that I'm ready to pull the print with my cardstock. I think that looks very lovely, and you can actually see the Mini Orbs stamp that I've used. By not inking it, it actually removed the ink from the gel plate. With this next background, I've used the same 3 colors of alcohol ink I've used before in this video. Then used the clear plastic wrap crinkled up to give a little interesting texture. And then, while the alcohol inks were still wet, I pulled the print. Here I'm just using the same color inks and the exact same technique I just used, just to make another background. As you can see, no two backgrounds turn out exactly the same. They really are one of a kind. I hope you've been inspired to try this on your own. And just in case you're wondering what I've done with some of these backgrounds, here's an example. And another. Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe. Hope to see you at delbellosdesigns.com. And if you haven't already done so, consider joining our Facebook groups. Here are the URLs, or with your phone, you can scan the QR code on your screen. Have a great day.